everybody, welcome back to the Bladecast. I'm Travis, and I'm not at home, so this is pretty cool. I'm actually in the streets in Amsterdam right now, and I'm hanging out with Ivo at his skate shop, This Is Soul. Ivo, mind letting everybody kind of know who you are and what you do?
So I'm Ivo, and I'm the owner of This Is Soul Skateshop. I run the skate shop, but I also run a skate school, and the shop is going strong now for like 12 years or something. The company, at least, and the physical store we have already for 7 years, and the skate school is growing to be very big. Like, we do 500 students every week. At least that was like last year. So now it's like the new summer coming up, so we have to see like if we're gonna improve that. I have like some like 10 teachers working for me
Wow.
every week doing all those lessons. So it's pretty dope. We're doing our best to push the sport here in the Netherlands.
It's actually really impressive. So yesterday we went out skating. We checked out one of the kind of famous skate parks here in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And while I was there, the amount of people skating by on, like, a guy went by on the Frankie carbon skate, the white top, black bottom.
Yeah.
But he had like a free skate frame.
Okay.
And didn't even acknowledge the fact that the skate park was there. He just kept going, like cruising down the street. And then there were more rollerblade kids at the park than there were skateboarders or scooters or anything else.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see.
Yeah.
So it seems like the work that you're doing is actually impactful. I don't see this stateside. I don't see as many people skating, but I mean, we showed up this morning and there were kids out front skating the down boxes, and it looks like you have rental skates too.
Yeah. So for the lessons we of course have like a big arsenal in rental skates, and then because we have them here at the store, it's actually the best promotional device that we have is to let people just use them for free when they are available. And the kids only need to hand out their shoes to us as a deposit, and then they can skate around the neighborhood. So if you ever went to pass this neighborhood, there's no way you cannot see any skaters, and that fact might inspire people to the next time if they see the store, like, oh yeah, like I saw that like last week and I thought it would look cool, you know. Maybe like the week after that they just enter the store to get some skates themselves, or like maybe buy some in the future, or get some clothing or a cool cap, you know. So that's how we try to inspire people.
So you said you've been here for 12 years, or you've been doing the shop for 12 years?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then you've been in this physical space for 7, or have you been in other locations?
Well, the previous location was just a warehouse. So, and then eventually we figured out, like, okay, we're paying for a warehouse. People are coming by all the time anyway, so the only difference between having a warehouse and a store is that you have windows.
The one thing I really noticed about your shop that was impressive is you walk in the door, obviously you have like all the caps and you have clothing and you have this whole front store, but when you walk to the back of the store, I really only see aggressive skates, and there's a couple like free skate or not really like power blading stuff, but more just like kind of free skate to get you into it, but that's it. There's no scooters, there's no skateboards, there's no BMX, like you just do inline.
We just do inline skates, and then we even go one step further, because we don't sell speed inline skates. So like that is like a low shoe. We are used to the shoes that go above our ankles. We don't do hockey inline skates. We only do like freestyle inline skates that have like a solid, strong boot, like a rollerblade twister, or a Seba, or FR, or something similar to that. And of course aggressive skates. And so that is actually, for me, a very obvious concept. It's like, because what other skates are you gonna use to just cruise around the city?
Sure.
You're not gonna use some like soft boot rec skates. Those are just, I won't sell them ever. And also, like, most of them come in just too ugly of a colors to have here. So my mindset is basically like, for the freestyle skate section, I only want to have beautiful skates that I think look good and are actually good enough to skate on. How obvious that concept is, nevertheless, there's like no other store that I can think of, at least. Like, so let me know if I'm wrong in this, but there's no other store in the world that has that philosophy.
Yeah, I think as far as stores go, you're the only storefront that I can think of.
Yes,
and I know Roller Warehouse, so Roller Warehouse does just inline as well. But there's really no storefront at Roller Warehouse. They're more of like just a
Roller Warehouse has recreational skates probably as well, right?
They have some. It's
like
about the same level as you.
But they do have the soft boots, like the low end rollerblade skates. If you wear those as a guy like us that is used to like a strong stiff boot, we would put that on and then like rather walk than skate.
So you're really looking more in like the premium side of more like the free skate market, and also more of like definitely the premium side of the aggressive market.
I don't know if I want to say it that it's premium, because actually like it's not really expensive to make a good functioning freestyle inline skate.
Okay.
It's just a solid hard boot. It could be like the cheapest one is the Powerslide Bronx. It's 130 euros. I wouldn't call that premium.
Okay.
But it is a lot better than like a genuine soft boot recreational skate.
Cool.
And also for aggressive side, I wouldn't call it premium either, because we just try to carry all aggressive skates that are on the market. The only aggressive skate that we don't have is the USD Realm.
Okay.
Because it's just below the standard that we want to have as a store.
The other ones I noticed you don't have in shop is Adapt, but I don't think Adapt sells anywhere in
Not
shops.
anymore. We were actually the first shop in the world to carry Adapt, but or maybe one of the first. Such a long time ago.
Okay.
But ever since Peter and Olga decided to go in a different direction, and for their aggressive skates only sell directly to customers, so that's their decision.
Sure. And then I also noticed I didn't see any trigger skates.
Well, we just sold out of the old one, the Kudo skate.
Sorry.
The new Pro model is about to come in, so. Yeah.
Gotcha. So obviously running an aggressive only business, or the type of business you have, seems like, I don't know, at least stateside it seems kind of crazy to me, because there really isn't the market for it. But I mean, from what I can tell around Amsterdam is you've created this market. I see your stickers everywhere. I see kids everywhere. Oh yeah, I mean it was shocking, like the amount of streets I'd turned down, and there's a This Is Soul sticker like popped
I never
up
see
on
those stickers.
Oh, well maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm looking for them too.
I'm looking for them too.
But it seems impressive. It seems like, I don't know, you're doing something that not a lot of places have, and Amsterdam seems like a really good place for it. It's relatively flat. There's a lot of bike paths for getting around pretty quickly, and it seems to be a very like pedestrian friendly city versus more of like an LA, which is more of a car friendly city. So has that helped at all, or are you still like, as far as the business goes, is it still like tough every day to kind of make it through just on skating?
So we are making it through just on skating, and it is tough. And Amsterdam is great for it because of the flatness of it, but half of the year it's just too cold here or too wet to skate. So me as a store owner, I look at like Roex in Spain, and I'm like, oh damn, like they have it nice, like it's always good weather over there, and I'm like, oh shit, can't change that here. So might sound ideal, but the flatness alone doesn't do it. And in America, there's loads of places where the sun always shines, and where it's also relatively flat. I think for anybody wanting to start a store in the United States, I would just say start with the web shop, and then if you grow bigger and bigger, then like maybe at first you're gonna like sacrifice a room in your house, you know, and then when you grow out of that room and decide to rent like a warehouse or something, maybe then you can, instead of renting a warehouse, you can rent like a small store instead, because the costs are maybe even the same. So then it doesn't really matter anymore. But then you have that basis because you already built up your brand and stuff like that. So, and I do actually have an advice for people wanting to start a store, because I just today I was looking at maybe like a more unknown UK based web shop, and I checked out their skating. Like what they the brands that they carry, and it was just like close to nothing. So like it's really hard, even in the States. It's gonna be hard. Like if you open a new store, you have such a big competitors with Roller Warehouse and a few of those, that you either have to like carry everything, or it's not gonna work. Yeah, and to have that, it's like it's a really big investment, and when you're just like starting off your brand, it's really hard to then get all that inventory moving, because like in a half year, like all these companies are going to bring out a whole new model, so you really have to push it out again. Otherwise, you're gonna lose a lot of money, and then you'll be bankrupt in a year. So maybe a good tactic, if anybody really wants to open a store, would be just to focus on soft goods first and only. So you see here the caps, and this is like super cheap to have a cap. It's like, and there's only one size often, you know. So like to get all the inline skate caps out there, it will cost you like a couple €100. And if you don't sell them in like 2 years, it's still a cap. A cap's a cap, so you'll sell it to somebody randomly.
Sure.
Sometime. So that's a safe investment. And somehow I never see like stores that are beginning out. They focus so much on the hardware. But why don't you like just try to be like the coolest shop in soft goods that you can imagine? Like I've never seen anybody taking that tactic. So there's a lot of like upcoming clothing brands as well, like Blade Life, and you can get the Blader Gang clothing and the Blackjack clothing, and just get like really good basis in that, and make really good photos of it, and get like all the bags that you can have, and just focus really good on the soft goods. So that having the clothing will create your brand name and establish it as a cool thing, instead of like maybe like Roller Warehouse, which is just like not really a cool thing, maybe to some people, but
sure.
Just focus on having like a really nice logo and really nice marketing, really nice graphics, stuff like that. And then from that base on, you could open like an inline skating clothing store, and that's way more appealing to random people walking by. Having because people come by here and they buy a cap. Like random people come here and buy a cap, or they buy a shirt because we have the shirt so obviously displayed.
Yeah.
And then you only need like maybe a Roach's Majestic 12, which is not like a model that will be kicked out after half a year because it's already like 30 years old.
Right.
So you have to like invest in models that are not like so that have like a high turnover, that need to be in sale after like 5 months because there's like the new something skate coming after it, and now it's the old skate and you need to get rid of it. And
sure.
Like as a store, that really sucks to get rid of inventory that you didn't even like get a good sale out of yet.
Sure.
So like a Seba FR model, it's just a black skate 80mm and it will never go in sale. So buy that instead of like a I don't know, like some Powerslide Imperial, which will go in sale after 5 months, and it's the same skate for the same price.
Sure.
But the one needs to go in sale and the other doesn't. So yeah, just make sure you have like a solid base of like solid skates. Cool. And then build off from that. Then you build up to the more like other skates that are more like fashion trendy. You can do that. That's the way that skateboarding does it as well, you know. So
start small and really start building your way up from there.
Yeah,
and soft goods sounds like kind of a good.
Start with soft goods. I would say with that. Start with building your brand in soft goods, and only carry skates that are not fashionable.
Sure, that makes sense.
Solid, stable.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is while we were talking through that whole conversation, you made very clear that you kept saying inline skating and you weren't saying rollerblading.
Yeah.
And that stood out a lot to me.
Did it?
Is there a reason why?
Yeah, for sure. Like I like to think really deep about all this stuff, and I realized that if we would, as a sport, have in the future someday in the future one name and one clear naming system, then the only way to approach this is by calling it inline skating. Because if you go with rollerblading or blading, which is short for rollerblading,
right,
then you will never get all the heads into the same direction. Because like a brand like Roach's will never be called Roach's rollerblading.
Right.
It says in their actual logo, it says Roach's inline skating.
Right.
Like, at least in one of their logos, it says Roach's inline skating. They will never change this.
Sure, and I've seen like Razors is Razor Skate Company. They're not Razor's Rollerblade Company.
Exactly. Like, and even though like Razor sometimes uses like blading in some like maybe Instagram posts or something, there will never be like Razor's rollerblading company.
Gotcha.
It will never happen.
So along those same lines, is it inline skating or is it skating? Or is that kind of...
It's both.
It's both?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just like hockey skating is skating, and it's also hockey.
I think you gave me an example the other day of like football. Like if somebody throws a football, you go pick up the ball. You don't pick up the football. You don't have to define like is it a soccer ball or is it a tennis ball? You know, like you go get the ball. The ball's just a generic term. So we should be using skating as our generic term.
Yeah, it's imagine yourself like in a position and everybody around you that's like similar calls something in a certain name, and you do the same thing. Maybe it's obvious that you're doing that thing as well. So like every sport similar to us is calling it skating. So you have like, if you talk to quad skaters, right, they will call it skating all day. They say they're skaters, what they have on their feet is a skate, and they say let's go skating. So if you could look at ice skating, which we originated from, they'll just talk about let's go skating. They're talking about their skate, and they perceive themselves as skaters. Then like we as aggressive skaters also have like a cousin called skateboarding, because we do grinds and they do grinds as well. So they call themselves skaters. What they're standing on is a board, and when they go do the thing they want, they call it let's go skating. So like all the sports surrounding us that have like some linkage, they call it skating. Probably you're skating as well. Like it has to be obvious at some point. But the funny thing about this word is that like if you talk to a quad skater, then they would call ice skating, they would call it ice skating. Like they would like call it full out. They would never call like
They wouldn't call
it skating because they call what they're doing skating.
Right.
And they call like a skateboard, they would call it maybe a board sport or something, you know?
And on the other hand, an ice skater would most likely call quad skating
quad skating, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it makes sense because for them it's like that's the original version of skating, and so then skateboarders also do the same thing. The skateboarders, if you talk to a skateboarder, only what they are doing is called skating, and even ice skating, that's not really skating, but they just call it like that, and they're not really supposed to. And that's kind of like the approach that we should take as well, because what I have on my feet is a skate, I'm skating, and if I see a skateboarder, I'll just say a skateboarder or a boarder. I would never call a skateboarder a skater.
Okay.
Yeah, because,
That's interesting. It's a weird position to be in, because it's a name that we need to own.
Yeah, we need to own it.
But it's hard to own it whenever we look at everybody else who's already owning it in a different way.
So many people are owning it already, yeah.
Okay.
But they're doing the same thing. They're owning it as well, in regarding of everybody else who is already on. Because there's like multiple. Because if you look at ice skating alone, there's like 5 different sports in ice skating or something, right? And they're all calling it skating. Yeah. Okay, so in quad skating, there's like how many? You have like dance, speed, derby, and park. Right. And they're all calling it skating. Yeah. All right, so you have inline skating. And so how many do you have 5 or something? Yeah. Downhill, slalom, speed, hockey, and aggressive. And then there's off-road. And there's a whole bunch of them. So off-road doesn't really, but even, so all these, if you go look at inline skating, all types of inline skating, they are calling it inline skating. Yeah. Everybody. Talk to a speed inline skater. They just go skating. Yeah. Only aggressive skaters. Only aggressive skaters are like, yeah, the skateboarder told me that I cannot call it skating, so I guess I'm a rollerblader or something. So the reality is that anybody listening to this, we're the problem, and we need to fix it. Yeah, you just own it, and then like, it's definitely called inline skating. There's like definitely like. Not roller or something. Okay. Definitely. Okay. And because like also all other forms of inline skating are calling it inline skating. Sure. So like you would never have like a slalom inline skater. They would just own it that it's inline skating. Okay. And then what type of inline skating it is? That's like the next question then. And you have like a couple of thoughts on that. So it's either like some brands call it street, like it's called the Seba Street in Baltimore. Right. And now Sola has the new frame. It's called the Sola Street frame. Right. And I've seen Rollerblade calls it the Rollerblade Street, and then they have, I think Rollerblade Urban as well is another term that they have. And then Roaches mentions street at some point in their website as well, but as a distinctionary name between the other forms of inline skating, it's the most silly one, because if I would have to explain to my mother that what I'm doing is street while I'm not in the street because I'm doing it in a skate park, it's more obvious if it's flipped. So if my big wheel setup would be called a street skate, because it's meant for skating on the street. So that's the.
So basically, we need to take everything we built over 30 years and throw it away.
No.
As far as calling ourselves rollerbladers, and make sure we're referring to ourselves as inline skaters or skaters, and just kind of, because we're the, you know, the 5 examples you gave, we're the odd man out. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and then the only way to doing grinds on skates is you could call it grinding inline skating maybe.
Okay.
But that would be an odd one. I'll just keep with the original name given to us, called aggressive inline skating. Because if you really look at like any list of, like if you're looking at a list of like speed inline skates, slalom inline skates, like any website that has a list of those names, they always call it aggressive.
Sure, and I don't think aggressive is a wrong term in any way. Like aggressive is the term that we've all come to terms with, and nobody wants to say aggressive inline. Like, you don't say aggressive inline, it's aggressive inline skating.
Yeah.
And it's pretty ubiquitous. Anybody out there, if you said, oh, I do aggressive, it'd be pretty easy to quantify versus saying I street skate, which would make sense of more like you distance or you urban or you something else. So definitely that makes a lot of sense. So you're obviously you're connected into all this, and you see it every single day with your shop, and you're continuing to try and make all this work. But the thing I think that you would notice more than a lot of people is like, what are we failing at? Like, what are some things that we really need to try and build in our industry that doesn't exist currently?
Yeah.
That we need to make.
Make as in a product, or I would say first of all, like what we need to change is the perception that something needs to change.
Okay.
That's a big one, because all I see is just right now is a lot of like grown up people that actually somehow maybe like are kind of like misogynistically liking to complain or something.
Okay. That's fair. I see it too.
Yeah. there was an example that my friend Jeroen gave me, and he started to do bouldering, climbing, you know, and that's like a big upcoming sport. I would say it's definitely bigger than aggressive inline skating in the Netherlands here right now, and it's like really booming.
Chad Hornish, everybody.
Yeah. Hello. There was a big competition, and Jeroen asked the guy who won it. He asked like, so what did you win, you know? And the winner, he said like, oh, nothing, like just a bunch of T-shirts, you know. And Jeroen was like, oh, don't you think that's just a little bit, not that much, you know? And he was like, no, I just do it because it's cool, you know. Yeah, I just like climbing, so it doesn't matter. Yo! Hey boys, ik kom zo bij jullie, oké? Jullie kunnen even skaten, zet me eventjes neer. Doe maar eventjes.
We willen iets zeggen.
Ja, wat wil je zeggen?
Sorry dat
So what we tend to do as a group, our group of aggressive inline skaters, is like there's an eternal comparison between two things. One thing being our state of our sport in the 90s, and also the state of our sport compared to the state of skateboarding. So if you look at our sport and you take out the comparisons of what it was in the 90s and what skateboarding has accomplished, and just look at it as it is, it's doing fine. It's doing great. Like, we are not with a few people. Like, a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are loving it, and like, it's definitely bigger than curling. It's bigger than korfball.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is I'm standing in a skate shop in the Netherlands that I flew to a contest across the world for. So to say that we're not curling, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, man, just like, we need to own who we are. That's the basic message that I'm like, own who we are right now as a sport, and own the name that has been given to us, because only that will bring us further in the future.
Besides just like owning ourselves and doing that, I feel like there's obviously a market that we haven't really tapped into. And I know, so I popped in here the other day and was just having some conversations with you, and you were talking more about forgetting hardware and really focusing on like lifestyle and trying to do that. And you gave me some good examples. Can you kind of go over that again? I know I'm just leaving you high and dry here, but your example was like in skateboarding, like hardware doesn't matter in skateboarding. Exactly, you show up to the skate park on a carbon fiber board and no one cares.
Yeah, exactly.
But here it's like you got to show up with carbon fiber skate that has you know the new Kaiser hard frame, and it's got the new wheels that have blah 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 metal hubs, and you know, and it becomes this like it's just like a show-off competition in a way.
Exactly, and it should be a show-off competition, but it shouldn't be on that front. So the original inline skate was the rollerblade TRS, because that was like the first one that had a buckle and was good enough to do tricks with, because the inline skates that went before that just had laces and they were too weak. Okay, so it's as soon as a skate with a buckle came out, people were gonna do gaps and so on. So for a couple of years it was just rollerblade, and then Roaches came in 1991 and had like the same skate. So there was this brief period from 1991 until my like 96 or something, and that you had two companies, and then maybe Bauer. And Bauer had like not the same skate, fairly similar skate.
Sure.
Just the Bauer Classic. So there were just basically like these three companies, and they realized that like, oh yeah, they were like improving their hardware, but it was basically the same. So they like focused a lot on making like cool clothing and cool videos. Like they sponsored all the hoax videos are sponsored by Roaches, you know. So they put a lot of money in their team, and I would say they put money on the right places and made people fall in love with the sport, and that's what happened in that period. Like it could be a correlation, you know. I'm not saying it's definitely causation, but it's very particular. I'm sorry, what's that word?
Particular?
Particular, that in the same period that like...
Or peculiar.
Yeah, that was the one. That the hardware is basically the same. In that period, the boom was also the biggest, right? So starting like 97, like there's a hardware explosion, and you can see the advertisement in the old magazines. They were changing from like, first you had like the face of Randy Spicer, and then with just the name Senate underneath or something, or the name Roaches or whatever underneath. So it was more like, this is the feeling and this is the brand.
So they were selling more of a lifestyle than they were the 4 billion pairs of skates that exist currently.
Yes, exactly. And then starting 97, the competition really hit hard. Like Salomon and Oxygen and K2 and USD and Racers, like there was like this hardware explosion, and it needed to happen, because like that in that period, the next coming 5 years, that's what shaped our understanding of what an aggressive skate should look like. So it was necessary for us to have that hardware explosion. But what happened is that the advertisement that came out in that period was just like, you have like a USD Cyrus, and then it has like these lines like new improved shock absorber and ultimate buckle system or something.
It just became techno speak.
Yeah, techno speak, and then that's just not inspiring to people.
Sure.
You know? And that's the battlefront that these companies decided to have. And what happened after that 5-year period of battling in hardware, like the numbers declined, and now we're here. So
certainly in that time frame, there were other factors going into it as well.
For sure.
But that didn't help. Like if you think about, you know, in the same aspect of like a computer, if you want to sell a feeling, like Apple never tells you what their specs are on a computer.
No, exactly.
They sell you the lifestyle that goes with it. But then you have Dell, and it's like, we have this much RAM and this much processor and this much this and this much that.
Yeah.
And it's stuff no one cares about.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, that does mirror to skating. I never thought of that.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is that also from the shop side, you create like a shop system where what we already talked about earlier is that the only way to have like a good functioning shop is to invest like 50,000 euros and go full hardware and like have it turn over like every half year. You need to like sell that 50,000 euros and get a new one, because otherwise you're falling behind. And as soon as you like fall behind a little bit, like boom, you're lost, because then you're not up to date anymore, and then there's one shop that does it slightly better, and then you come with the system that there's basically one good shop in every country. That's what we have now, and that's the end result of having like a hardware based system, where the investment of having an inline skate shop is so big. So what we want, actually, we want to have maybe like a shop in every city, right? Or maybe like every little town.
Sure.
Right. So the only way to do that is to have like the way that I described it more before, is like to have more clothing and just like more stable releases. And if you compare it to skateboarding, the way they did this is they decided not to care about their hardware after, what is it, 1990 or something.
Yeah.
You know? Like their hardware just stayed the same. So imagine starting a skateboard brand, right? So you buy some generic board from China, and then now you have to like wiggle your room in the market. And the way to do that is to produce a killer team video with a really dope team, and make a lookbook of your brand, and make like really cool clothing and really good advertisement. So creating a vibe like that makes people from the outside, if they have like a peek into this the sport, see that there's something for them, see that there's a culture. And if you have like a hardware-based sport, like maybe like skiing is or something, if you look into that and you look into, you're like, nah, I'm not really, like that doesn't really resonate with me. And this is especially necessary when you're talking about teenagers, because like right now there's even kids skating in front of the store, and a lot of my students are kids as well. But the challenge is not kids actually, because it's pretty easy to get a kid to go skate because it's just fun, you know, it's nice. But you know what happens when they're teenagers? They want to like, you know, try different cultures and see what fits them, you know, like experiment with their identity a bit. And as a sport, if you don't offer an identity, they'll just go.
Yeah.
So that's the main focus, offer an identity for the teenagers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because if you do look at the parallel of skateboarding, and I know everybody hates that comparison, but
yeah,
the reality is that skateboarding sells lifestyle. I mean, you see the kid walking around with a Thrasher shirt and shorts and
yeah,
the cuff pants and everything, and you obviously know he doesn't skate and he's never put a day, you know, in on a skateboard, but
yeah,
it's frustrating because we can't sell that, but we also don't have an identity.
yeah,
And a lot of our identity is just copped from skateboarding.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you're saying like a good path forward for a lot of places that we don't have currently is really just creating a lifestyle, or creating
Yeah.
a brand that appeals to people outside of our industry.
definitely.
And so selling the lifestyle versus selling the best improved backslide plate
Yeah.
with an aligned groove, and it's now
Yeah.
you know, the whole 9 yards that goes along with it. I mean,
Definitely.
there's always a point for technology to have techno talk. I feel like that's always
Oh
a thing.
yeah, I love techno talk. I
Yeah.
can talk for hours.
And that's a big thing for me, but on the other end, in skating,
Yeah.
there's also a point where you kind of need to let the product talk for itself. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big part that's lacking.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, I mean, honestly, going full circle here, walking into your shop is impressive. Like, walking in and seeing the fact that you just put it all out. You know, you have these classic videos that I showed earlier,
Oh, yeah.
and you have all the shirts and you have all the skates on the wall. And I know that you're still kind of recouping from coming back from Winterclash, so a lot of
Yeah.
products still here, there, and everywhere in boxes. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you really have put together an amazing business, and it's
Thanks, man.
awesome to see all of Amsterdam really embrace it and really like
Yeah.
come together and see
That's
your
cool.
stickers and see kids on skates.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So before we depart, if anybody out there is really interested, I do want to direct them towards Ivo and his shop.
Yeah.
What's the best way people can get a hold of you or find more information about you?
Well, check out the website, of course, ThisIsSoul.com. Our Instagram is at ThisIsSoul, and our Facebook is also at ThisIsSoul. So just check us out over there.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ivo, thank you very much for your time.
Go, man.
It was a pleasure to meet you. It was a pleasure to see your shop. And everybody out there, give them a follow. This is Soul. Fantastic place. And if you're ever in Amsterdam, it's a short ride right from the central station. You hop across one boat and walk a
Yeah.
10-minute walk, and you're in his shop.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you again soon.
See ya.